Mira had always believed that life was passing her by. Every day seemed heavier than the one before. She worked hard, tried to please everyone, but somehow, she always felt like she was falling short. The sense of failure clung to her like a shadow, whispering constantly that she had no value. No matter how much she tried to hide it, the sadness inside her was growing, making even the simplest tasks feel impossible. One evening, after a particularly difficult day at work, she looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the tired, anxious woman staring back. Her eyes, once full of hope, seemed dull, and her hands, which had done so much, now trembled slightly from exhaustion. She whispered to herself, "I have no value," as if saying it out loud would make the words real. Mira needed a change, something that would give her a break from the constant noise of the city and the relentless pressure of her daily life. She had heard about a ranch far away, a place where life was slower, where people worked with their hands and with the earth. Without thinking too much, she decided to go. It was not a permanent solution, she told herself. It was just a chance to step away, even for a little while, to breathe and perhaps find some clarity. She packed lightly, carrying only what she needed. She did not know what awaited her, but the thought of escaping her worries, even temporarily, made her heart feel a little lighter. When Mira arrived at the ranch, she was immediately struck by the vast open fields and the fresh, clean air. The city noise, the constant rush, and the never-ending responsibilities seemed to vanish in the face of the wide blue sky and the soft rustling of the trees. The ranch was quiet, but alive in its own way. Birds sang in the mornings, and the cows moved slowly across the green pastures. Mira felt a strange sense of calm that she had not felt in years. It was a small, unexpected comfort, but one that she needed more than she could admit. The rancher, an older man named Ray, noticed her arrival. He was a kind man, with eyes that seemed to see everything, and a smile that carried a quiet warmth. Ray had spent his life on the ranch, caring for the land and the animals, and he understood the value of patience and hard work. He observed Mira quietly, noticing her hesitation and the way she seemed to carry the weight of her thoughts on her shoulders. He did not ask her about her past or why she was here. Instead, he welcomed her simply, showing her the small cabin where she would stay, and explaining some basic chores she could help with. His voice was calm, steady, and unhurried, and Mira found herself feeling slightly more at ease. The first days at the ranch were not easy. Mira struggled with even simple tasks, like feeding the animals or carrying water. Her movements were awkward, and mistakes were frequent. She dropped buckets, spilled feed, and often felt frustrated with herself. Each error seemed to confirm the belief she had carried for so long that she had no value. She apologized constantly, her voice barely above a whisper, feeling embarrassed for not being able to perform as she thought she should. Ray watched her carefully, but never scolded. Instead, he offered gentle corrections and showed her how to do things step by step. There was no hurry, no pressure, just steady guidance that allowed her to learn at her own pace. One evening, after a long day of work, Mira walked to the edge of the pasture, her mind heavy with self-doubt. The sky was painted with soft shades of orange and pink as the sun began to set. She sat on a wooden fence, staring at the horizon, feeling the weight of her own thoughts pressing down on her. The day had been hard, and her mistakes seemed larger than life. She could not help but whisper the words she had been carrying inside for years. "I have no value." The words floated in the air, fragile and sad, like a leaf drifting away in the wind. She did not know if anyone heard her or cared, but saying it aloud somehow made the feelings more real, more undeniable. Ray, who had been nearby checking on the animals, heard her whisper. Without hesitation, he walked over and sat beside her. He did not speak immediately. He simply held her hand gently, a simple gesture of comfort and understanding. Mira felt a warmth she had not known in a long time, a quiet reassurance that she was not alone. The touch was not overwhelming, but it carried a message far stronger than words could. In that moment, she realized that someone saw her, truly saw her. Even when she felt invisible, her tears began to flow, small and steady, as she let out the sadness that had been building inside her for years. Ray did not pull away or try to rush her. He sat with her quietly, allowing her to express the emotions she had kept locked inside for far too long. After some time, Mira wiped her tears and looked at Ray, her voice trembling. I feel like I am nothing, like I cannot do anything. Right. Ray smiled softly, his eyes full of understanding. Mira, he said gently, everyone feels that way at some point. Life can be heavy, and it can make us believe lies about ourselves. But making mistakes, struggling, or feeling lost does not take away your value. You are here, and you are trying. That alone is important. His words were simple, but carried a depth that Mira could feel in her chest. For the first time, she began to believe, even a little, that maybe her worth was not measured by her failures. The days that followed were still difficult, but something inside Mira had shifted. She began to pay more attention to the small successes she achieved, like managing to feed the animals without spilling or learning how to mend a broken fence. Ray continued to guide her patiently, encouraging her gently whenever she faltered. He did not rush her or expect perfection. Instead, he celebrated progress, no matter how small. Mira started to notice changes in herself. Her hands steadied, her movements grew more confident, and a quiet pride began to replace the constant self-doubt. It was not instant, and some days were harder than others, but slowly, she felt a spark of hope. Even the quiet moments at the ranch became meaningful. Watching the sunrise, feeling the wind across the fields, and listening to the gentle sounds of animals, all became reminders that life could be simple and beautiful. Mira began to understand that value was not something earned by perfection or achievement alone. It was something that existed within her, waiting to be recognized and nurtured. Ray's quiet presence, his patience, and his belief in her were helping her to see that she mattered, even when she could not see it herself. Each day, she felt a little stronger, a little more capable, and a little more connected to the world around her. One evening, after a long day, Mira stood by the fence again, looking at the horizon as the sky shifted from orange to deep purple. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs, and for the first time, she did not whisper that she had no value. Instead, she felt a tiny seed of confidence growing inside her, fragile but real. She looked at Ray, who was nearby, and noticed the calm smile on his face. He had not said much, but his actions, his patience, and his understanding had spoken louder than any words could. Mira realized that she was beginning to believe in herself again, even if just a little, and that belief was the first step toward discovering her true worth. Mira's journey at the ranch was only beginning, but the first part of her healing had already started. She had come to the ranch feeling invisible, burdened, and hopeless, but the gentle guidance and quiet encouragement of the rancher had begun to light a small flame of hope inside her. She was learning that value was not measured by perfection or constant achievement, but by presence, effort, and the willingness to try. With each passing day, Mira felt the weight of her old beliefs lifting slightly, replaced by a quiet understanding that she was not alone. She was capable, and she was beginning to matter, just as she was. The days at the ranch grew warmer and brighter as Mira began to settle into a rhythm. Each morning, she woke to the soft light of dawn spilling over the fields, the air filled with the scent of grass and the gentle sounds of animals. She had started to feel more connected to the world around her, noticing details she had once overlooked. The way sunlight danced on the leaves, the sound of birds singing in harmony, and the calm movement of the cows grazing peacefully. These small observations, simple as they were, brought a strange sense of joy she had not felt in years. For the first time, life felt less like a burden and more like a possibility. Ray continued to guide Mira patiently. He showed her the best ways to care for the animals, how to mend fences, and how to work with the earth without forcing it. He never demanded perfection and never judged her mistakes harshly. Instead, he celebrated her small successes, pointing them out with a quiet smile or a gentle word. "See?" he would say. "You did that well. Little by little, you are learning." At first, Mira struggled to believe him, her old self-doubt always whispering that she was only pretending to succeed. But over time, the repeated encouragement began to settle in, like water slowly soaking into dry soil. She began to notice that she could do more than she had thought possible. And that thought gave her a quiet strength she had never known. One afternoon, an unexpected challenge arose at the ranch. A sudden storm had broken through the usually calm sky, and heavy rain started to fall. The cows were restless, and a small fence had been damaged by the wind. Mira hesitated for a moment, feeling the familiar surge of fear and doubt. She worried that she would fail again, that she would make everything worse. But then she remembered Ray's words from days before, that struggle did not erase value, and that trying mattered more than perfection. Taking a deep breath, she ran toward the fence, her clothes soaked and muddy, and began to repair it as best she could. Ray watched nearby but let her take the lead, knowing that real confidence came from action, not praise. To her surprise, she managed it. The fence was secure, the cows were calm, and the storm passed without further incident. Ray walked over, a proud smile on his face. "You did it," he said simply. Mira felt a surge of pride she had not felt in years. She realized, in that moment, that she had grown stronger than she had known. Her hands, once clumsy, moved with purpose. Her mind, once clouded with doubt, was calm and focused. For the first time, she truly felt that her efforts mattered, and that she could make a difference, even in a small way. The words, "I have value," felt new and real inside her heart. Over the next weeks, Mira continued to grow in confidence. She took on tasks that had once terrified her, from caring for the youngest animals to helping with harvest work in the fields. Each success, no matter how small, became a step forward. She learned to trust herself and to believe that her presence mattered. Ray's quiet support never wavered. Sometimes he would tell her stories from his own life, sharing moments when he had felt lost, unsure, or afraid. Hearing that someone she respected had once struggled like her made her feel less alone. It reminded her that pain and doubt were part of life, but they did not define a person's worth. One evening, after a long day, Mira stood by the pond near the cabin. The water reflected the golden hues of the sunset, and a gentle breeze rippled across the surface. She watched the animals settle for the night, their calm movements soothing her restless mind. Ray joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. He handed one to her and sat beside her quietly. For a long while, they simply watched the sun dip below the horizon. Mira felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She realized that the quiet moments, the steady work, and the gentle support she had received were all teaching her a lesson far deeper than any she had learned in the city. That value is not something given by others, but something recognized within oneself. The turning point came unexpectedly. One morning, while checking the pasture, Mira noticed that one of the calves had wandered too close to a small creek. The water was rising from recent rains, and the young animal was struggling. Without thinking, she ran toward it, calling for the calf to stay calm. Her hands guided it gently but firmly back to safe ground. Ray arrived moments later, impressed by her quick thinking and courage. "You handled that very well," he said. Mira felt a rush of emotions, relief, pride, and a deep, unspoken joy. For the first time, she realized that she could act with confidence, that she could respond to challenges without panic, and that her actions had meaning. It was a revelation that changed her perception of herself completely. From that day on, Mira approached each task with a new mindset. She was still learning, and she still made mistakes. But each effort was accompanied by belief in herself. She had begun to see that her value was not dependent on perfection or constant approval. It was inherent, something that had always existed, waiting for her to acknowledge it. Ray's consistent encouragement, his belief in her when she could not believe in herself, had been the key to unlocking that understanding. She no longer whispered that she had no value. Instead, she reminded herself quietly that she was capable, that she could contribute, and that she mattered. As her time at the ranch drew to a close, Mira felt a mixture of gratitude and sadness. The days had passed quickly, each filled with learning, growth, and quiet moments of reflection. She had discovered strength she had never known, skills she had never imagined, and a sense of self-worth she had long thought impossible. She approached Ray one evening, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "Thank you," she said. "You believed in me when I could not believe in myself. I will never forget that." Ray smiled warmly, his eyes kind. "You didn't need me to give you value," he said gently. "It was always inside you. I just helped you see it." On her last day at the ranch, Mira walked through the fields one final time. She breathed in the fresh air, feeling the sun warm her face, and listened to the sounds of the land. The animals moved around her calmly, a reflection of the peace she now felt inside. She realized that the ranch had taught her more than just practical skills. It had taught her to trust herself, to embrace her efforts, and to recognize her worth. The experience had changed her profoundly, leaving her stronger, more confident, and ready to face the world again. As she prepared to leave, Mira took a moment to stand at the edge of the pasture, looking at the horizon. The fields stretched endlessly before her, filled with life, light, and possibility. She felt a sense of gratitude that went deeper than words could express. Ray approached and gave her a firm, reassuring handshake, which she returned with a genuine smile. "Go with confidence," he said. "Remember that your value is never lost, even in the hardest times." Mira nodded, feeling the truth of his words resonate within her. She had come to the ranch thinking she was worthless, and she was leaving knowing that she mattered, deeply and unconditionally. As she drove away from the ranch, Mira reflected on her journey. The city awaited her with its noise, responsibilities, and challenges, but she no longer feared it. She carried with her a quiet strength, a new understanding of her own worth, and the lessons she had learned from Ray's gentle guidance. She knew that life would not always be easy, and that self-doubt might still try to creep in at times, but she was prepared to face it with courage and belief in herself. The woman who had whispered, "I have no value," had transformed into someone who recognized her own worth and was ready to step forward with confidence. Mira realized that value is not something that can be given or taken away. It exists in every person, waiting to be seen, acknowledged, and embraced. The ranch, the work, and Ray's quiet support had revealed this truth to her. She had discovered that strength comes not from perfection but from effort, that courage is born from facing challenges, and that love and care, even in small gestures, can change a life. The journey had not been easy, but it had been worth every step. Mira felt ready to face the world, her heart lighter, her mind clearer, and her spirit stronger than ever before. And, as the sun set behind the fields she had called home for a time, Mira whispered to herself, not in doubt this time, but in quiet affirmation, "I have value. I am capable. I am enough." The words felt true, real, and powerful. She smiled softly, ready to embrace the life that awaited her, carrying the lessons of the ranch and the kindness of a man who had reminded her of her worth. Mira's journey was only beginning, but she had found the most important thing: the belief in herself.